A life of luxury, a seemingly perfect marriage, and a beautiful home. Celeste Beard appeared to have it all. But behind the grand facade lay dark secrets, dangerous desires, and a chilling betrayal that no one saw coming. When a horrific act of violence shattered this picture-perfect life, the truth that emerged was more twisted than anyone could have imagined. What would drive someone to risk it all? And how did a sinister plan unravel into one of the most shocking crimes in modern history? Buckle up. This case will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about love, loyalty, and greed. Welcome back to Crime Investigation. Today, we delve into another chilling case, the case of Celeste Beard. Stay tuned as we uncover the truth behind this shocking story. Behind the doors of a lavish Texas mansion, where life seemed filled with happiness and wealth, a dark conspiracy led to the tragic death of Stephen Beard, a respected millionaire. A horrific event shattered the peace, revealing shocking secrets of love, betrayal, and boundless greed. Austin, the capital of Texas, USA, has a population of around 1 million people. A significant portion of this population consists of students and employees from local colleges. Many graduates choose to stay in the area to work in high-tech industries, similar to those found in Silicon Valley. Stephen Beard moved to Austin with his wife in 2008 after securing a contract with an independent television company. At that time, he had no idea of the remarkable success that lay ahead for him, nor the tragic events that would later unfold in his life. Born in 1924 in Dallas, Texas, Stephen was close to his mother, but never knew his father. After finishing high school, he pursued a career in engineering. However, during the post-war years, he faced significant challenges in finding a job. Eventually, he secured a position as a shoe salesman in Dallas, earning a modest salary of $15 a week. Despite the low pay, he later regarded this job as his greatest success because it was where he met his future wife, Elise, a model. They made a vibrant and harmonious couple. Elise was slender and petite, but enjoyed activities like fishing and horseback riding, pursuits often considered more masculine. Both shared boundless energy, making them well-suited for each other. Shortly after, Stephen landed his dream job at a radio station in Dallas. He worked hard, rising from a janitor to a leading advertising agent, eventually becoming a television program producer and a highly sought-after expert in his field. While Stephen advanced in his career, Elise focused on being a housewife and raising their 3 children. Their first daughter was born when Stephen was 48, followed by their sons when he was 50 and 53. During this time, Stephen became a symbol of success, expanding his ventures into real estate, advertising, and car sales, which allowed him to accumulate wealth quickly. He made his first million, but his greatest achievement came when he established his own television company. The couple relocated to Austin and quickly purchased a mansion with breathtaking views of the city. Stephen chose one of the most exclusive neighborhoods, offering them a level of privacy that sometimes felt excessive. They embraced a luxurious family life in their nearly 5,000 square meter home. The couple also became members of a country club, which had a membership fee of $50,000 even back then. By this time, Stephen and Elise had no financial concerns, and that amount was merely a minor expense for them. During this period, Stephen gained significant weight. He often joked that his weight gain was a reflection of his comfortable lifestyle and financial success. He enjoyed indulging in food and drinks while living a mostly sedentary life, whereas Elise remained committed to maintaining her health and fitness. By 1986, Stephen's media business had begun to thrive. However, in 1993, the family was struck by tragedy when Elise was diagnosed with a malignant brain tumor, The news devastated them all. Throughout her chemotherapy and radiation treatment, Stephen remained by Elise's side, offering unwavering support. That summer, she went into remission, and they took a cruise to celebrate their 45th anniversary. But not long after, she passed away. Family meant everything to Stephen, and after losing Elise, he felt profoundly alone. Each day, he visited the Austin Country Club by himself, drank several strong drinks, had dinner, and then returned to his mansion. Even though maids and nannies helped with household chores and cared for the children, he felt overwhelmed by loneliness. His relatives believed he needed a new wife, someone to help bring order back to his life. Soon, Stephen met Celeste, a 30-year-old waitress at the country club. Attracted to her, he invited her to work as a housekeeper, and she happily accepted the offer. Celeste was born on February 13, 1963 in Los Angeles. Her mother abandoned her shortly after birth, and she was quickly adopted by Edwin and Nancy Johnson. The couple had struggled with infertility and endured multiple miscarriages, so they decided to adopt a child from an orphanage to experience the joys of parenthood. During that time in the USA, adoption was relatively straightforward. Over 4 years, they adopted 4 children, Celeste being the second. She was just 2 days old when they brought her home. Unfortunately, even after finding a family, Celeste's struggles did not end. She recalled how her mother battled depression and suffered a nervous breakdown. One of her most disturbing memories was witnessing her mother hold the children's heads underwater in the bathtub while she stood by, confused and frightened. Nancy claimed it was simply a way to rinse them off after washing, but Celeste saw it differently. As the situation worsened, her adoptive mother was hospitalized due to a breakdown caused by diet pills and exhaustion. Their relationship remained strained. Initially, Celeste was very close to her father, but later she accused him of molestation, claiming it happened when she was 11. Edwin, however, strongly denied the allegations. During high school, her adoptive parents separated, causing her to become distant and harsh toward those she cared about. The custody battle was intense, with Edwin facing accusations of domestic violence and sexual harassment, while Nancy was considered unstable due to her mental health issues. During the trial, Celeste testified against her father, even claiming he had once hit her in the face with a knife, though she said the scar had faded over time. Many found her story difficult to believe, as her behavior was erratic and aggressive. She was referred to a psychiatrist, but doctors could not determine the root of her issues. Ultimately, they concluded she was simply going through a turbulent phase of adolescence, influenced by hormonal changes. Throughout her teenage years, Celeste moved between different foster homes. Despite her behavioral struggles, she was popular with boys and excelled in sports, known as a lively and energetic girl. After getting her driver's license, she began speeding recklessly through her neighborhood. At 15, she met 17-year-old Craig Bratcher at a bar. Soon after, she started skipping school and using drugs, spending most of her time with him at the beach. They eventually moved in together, and by 17, she was pregnant with twins. During this time, her tendency to lie became evident. She told some people the pregnancy was planned, but later claimed Craig was against it. She once told doctors he had hit her in the stomach, only to later retract the statement. Despite these contradictions, she became engaged to Craig on December 6, 1980. Doctors advised her to rest due to pregnancy complications, but she continued her carefree lifestyle. In 2008, she gave birth to premature twins, Jennifer and Christina, who spent 3 months in the hospital on life support. After returning home, the couple's relationship deteriorated. Their reckless lifestyle led to frequent arguments, often escalating into fights. Celeste had a fiery temper and sometimes harmed herself. later blaming Craig for domestic abuse. She frequently spoke about past trauma, initially accusing her father of sexual abuse, then later adding her older brother to the accusations. Many doubted her claims, viewing her as a habitual liar. After Craig caught her in bed with a neighbor, she reported him to the police for domestic violence. In response, Craig threatened the couple with a weapon, leading to his arrest and a 4-month prison sentence, though no one was harmed. Celeste secured a restraining order, and they divorced in May 1982, when their twins were just over a year old. Despite the legal battles, she frequently left the children with Craig while she attended parties. Celeste faced housing issues and moved in with a friend along with her children. However, she soon became frustrated with a neighbor whom she believed was constantly bothering her children. This conflict eventually led to her being asked to leave. During this time, Celeste's behavior became increasingly erratic. She frequently fabricated stories and even called the police for trivial reasons. For instance, she once reported her wallet as stolen, only to later find it at home. It appeared that she was not very attentive to her children, as she spent most of her free time socializing with friends. She often left them with acquaintances for several days, which ultimately resulted in her daughters being placed in foster care. Friends and family excused her actions, attributing them to her youth and inexperience with motherhood. They believed that Celeste received little support from her relatives and had a strained relationship with her mother, which ultimately contributed to her decision to abandon her children. After some time, she reconciled with Craig. They moved in together and tried to live as a normal family, but her behavior did not improve. In 1985, she accused Craig of rape. This time, however, he refused to accept the blame for her fabrications, as he was facing a serious sentence. The case hinged on a false statement made by one of their children. From that point on, Celeste lost the trust of her friends and relatives. No one believed her anymore. Eventually, all her claims, including the rape allegations, were questioned, as neither her father nor her brothers could corroborate them. It appeared that she had planned to manipulate the situation from the beginning. In the following years, Celeste married and divorced twice, but her behavior remained unchanged. She was still aggressive and deceitful. During this period, she was diagnosed with a depressive disorder. Despite undergoing treatment and taking medication, she saw little improvement and frequently experienced emotional breakdowns after ending relationships. Eventually, Celeste met a wealthy man named Jimmy Martinez. By this point, her children were already 11 years old. She fought Craig for custody, as he believed she was an unfit mother and that the children were at risk. Craig won the custody battle, but Celeste attempted to appear devastated over losing one of her daughters, Christina, with whom she had a closer bond. Although Craig tried to maintain custody, Celeste resisted, and the twins were once again caught in a chaotic lifestyle. However, this situation did not last long. Celeste was summoned to Arizona on fraud charges after authorities discovered that she had attempted to rob a couple who had briefly adopted one of her children. She tried to use her usual tactics to deflect blame, but this time, she failed. Additionally, she had set her car on fire in the desert in an attempt to collect insurance money. The victims discovered this and helped bring her to justice. Ultimately, her fraud was exposed. Fortunately for Celeste, she received a sympathetic judge who sentenced her to probation and a $20,000 fine. In exchange, she agreed to move to Texas and never return to Arizona. Celeste moved in with Jimmy, and soon after, they got married. She took his last name, but Jimmy soon realized she was accumulating a significant amount of debt, tens of thousands of dollars. This confused him, as they were legally married, and he couldn't understand why this was happening. When he tried to clarify to the creditors that these debts were not his, Celeste responded with accusations of sexual assault. Additionally, she stabbed herself in the wrist with scissors, seemingly in an attempt to make it look like she was trying to take her own life, possibly as a way to manipulate Jimmy further. Later, Celeste found a job at the Austin Country Club. In the fall of 1990, she met a wealthy man named Stephen Beard and began working as a housekeeper in his home. This was surprising, as Celeste had no experience with household tasks. She didn't know how to cook, clean, or do laundry. However, her goal was to attach herself to a wealthy man. To compensate for her lack of skills, she secretly relied on other maids to do the work without Stephen's knowledge. With her attractive appearance and feigned abilities, it didn't take long for Stephen to be drawn to her, especially after the loss of his beloved wife. Celeste quickly integrated herself into his social circle and often joked with his friends about her role as a housekeeper, despite her lack of qualifications. While everyone laughed politely, they were well aware that Celeste was not truly a suitable match for Stephen. Celeste was openly disinterested in Stephen, once telling her daughter Christina that the only reason she liked him was because of his wealth. Despite this, she continued to fabricate stories about herself, claiming to be a certified accounting specialist. By this time, many people suspected that she had serious issues. Craig even tried to warn Stephen about her true nature. When Stephen called Craig one day to discuss their children, Craig took the opportunity to caution him, warning that Celeste was a dangerous woman. However, Stephen remained unwavering in his feelings. He saw Celeste as a source of light during a difficult time in his life, and was grateful for the happiness she brought him. Celeste significantly improved Stephen's life in some ways. When his doctor informed him that he had an enlarged heart and was at high risk for a heart attack, she encouraged him to adopt a healthier diet and insisted on walking with him everywhere to increase his physical activity. Thanks to her support, he lost over 20 kilograms. This weight loss revitalized him. He found it easier to move, and the chest pain he had suffered since his wife's death vanished. He also began spending more time with his children. Eventually, they got engaged. However, this development raised concerns among Stephen's friends, including a judge who suggested that he consider a marriage contract, suspecting Celeste's intentions. The couple came to an agreement regarding their finances. At that time, Stephen's fortune was valued at $12 million. If they separated, he would keep all his real estate. If Celeste stayed married to him for 3 years, she would receive $500,000. In case she remained with him until his death, she would inherit $1 million. Additionally, he gave her $500,000 as a wedding gift under these conditions. On February 18, 1995, Celeste married Stephen Beard, her fourth husband, in a ceremony at the Austin Country Club, where she had recently worked as a waitress. The event was not well received by everyone. Ira, one of Stephen's children, attended the wedding, but the others chose not to, believing the marriage was nothing more than a financial arrangement. Celeste and Stephen spent their honeymoon in New Orleans in March 1995. Upon their return, Christina moved in with them. Christina often witnessed her mother crushing pills and mixing them into her husband's food. Celeste claimed they were sleeping pills, which allowed her to leave Stephen at home while she went out to party. Many people knew she frequented clubs at night while her husband slept, but they kept it from Stephen to avoid upsetting him. However, he soon sensed something was off. Despite giving Celeste a limited budget, he quickly noticed that she had spent over $100,000 within just a month of their marriage. He was particularly alarmed when jewelry from his safe went missing. A friend at the bank informed him that Celeste had stolen the jewelry belonging to his late wife, Elise. This revelation enraged him, and he decided to kick Celeste out of the house. In a state of desperation, She defended her actions, claiming she owed $20,000 in Arizona and had taken the jewelry to settle the debt. Celeste assured him that she would return everything once her financial issues were resolved. At this point, Stephen found himself repeating the mistakes of the men before him. He was being deceived and manipulated. However, despite his anger, he ultimately chose to protect her. He even helped cover up her insurance fraud and withdrew his decision to divorce. Celeste was admitted to a psychiatric clinic, where she was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder and prescribed medication. However, she continued to lie and manipulate those around her. She soon realized that Stephen was not a naive man. He was intelligent and experienced. This meant she had to be more careful and strategic. Her first goal was to convince him to buy a new property, which would allow her to claim half in the event of a divorce. Celeste argued that she couldn't feel comfortable in a house that had been purchased while Elise was still alive. Eventually, Stephen agreed and sold the house. They moved into a new lakefront property, which they planned to renovate with the help of a renowned architect. Stephen became deeply involved in the project, overseeing it almost daily. Celeste continued pressuring her husband for more assets. At the start of 1996, Stephen met with his lawyer to revise their marriage contract. The new agreement stated that if he died, Celeste would receive not only $1 million, but also half of their new mansion. While he closely supervised the construction, Celeste spent her time shopping and rarely visited the site. Knowing she would receive a substantial payout upon his death, she aimed to expedite that outcome. The couple had a daily routine of drinking together. Stephen enjoyed high-quality alcohol, but Celeste secretly replaced it with a cheaper, questionable substitute. She even mixed in drugs, playfully referring to her concoction as a cemetery cocktail among her friends. Celeste was now waiting for her plan to unfold. Meanwhile, her first husband was struggling with self-harm, and her second daughter moved in with her. At around 3 a.m. on October 2, 1999, Stephen called 911. The 75-year-old man was clearly panicked and confused. He told the dispatcher, "I don't want to die." His words made it clear that he had suffered a serious injury. He said he was holding his internal organs in place to prevent them from falling out, but was unable to explain how he had been hurt. He had simply woken up in severe pain and urgently needed help. After calling 911, Stephen told the dispatcher that his wife, Celeste, was in another part of the mansion and asked them to get her. However, when the dispatcher tried to contact her, there was no response. When police arrived, no one answered the door. They circled the house and spotted a small patio behind glass doors. Inside, they saw Stephen sitting, holding a phone in one hand and gripping the door with the other. Immediately, one of the officers smashed the glass door to enter the bedroom. Stephen was still alive, but in critical condition. His stomach had been severely injured. When questioned, he denied having undergone any recent surgery, which ruled out the possibility of stitches coming undone. However, he could not explain what had happened. The police quickly called for a rescue helicopter to take him to the hospital. As officers moved through the mansion to unlock the front door for the ambulance crew, they encountered Celeste. She explained that she had woken up to the flashing lights of police cars. When she tried to call emergency services, she was told that Stephen had already contacted them. Both Celeste and her daughters confirmed that Stephen had not undergone any surgeries, so his injuries could not have been caused by a medical issue. An officer attempted to reassure the family, informing them of the emergency. Celeste pleaded for her husband's life, while her daughters tried to comfort her. The girls later entered the bedroom where Stephen lay. Although they were not allowed to see him, they could hear their mother crying, yet no one actually saw any tears. Meanwhile, in the next room, Stephen was fighting for his life. His injuries were severe, and paramedics struggled to stabilize him. They began bandaging his massive wound on the way to the ambulance, trying to hold it together. As police examined the scene, an officer noticed a shell casing on the bedroom floor. This immediately confirmed that Stephen had been shot, and the room was declared a crime scene. Investigators and forensic experts were called in, and all outsiders were removed from the area. Celeste quickly became a suspect in the attack. However, she denied any involvement, claiming she had been asleep in another part of the house when Stephen was shot. Law enforcement confirmed her alibi with the help of her daughters. New details soon emerged. While receiving treatment for depression at a psychiatric hospital, Celeste had met another patient named Tracy Tarleton. Very few people in Stephen's inner circle knew about Tracy, but Christina mentioned that her mother had casually referred to her before. After their relationship ended, various rumors spread. Some speculated that there were romantic feelings between the two women, while others believed that only Tracy had strong affection for Celeste. Regardless, it was clear that their connection would soon become a critical part of the investigation. Investigators theorized that Celeste had orchestrated the attack on her husband, paying Tracy Tarleton to carry out the crime. By expediting Stephen's death, Celeste could finally claim her inheritance. Eventually, police arrested Tracy. During her interrogation, she quickly confessed that on the night of October 2, 1999, she had entered Stephen's mansion, gone to his bedroom, and shot him in the stomach before fleeing the scene. However, she insisted she had not intended to kill him. A search of Tracy's home uncovered the firearm used in the attack. Ballistic tests confirmed that it was the weapon responsible for Stephen's injuries. Despite the severity of his wounds, Stephen miraculously survived. Doctors managed to save his life, and he returned home to recover, under the care of none other than Celeste. 2 years later, however, he died from a blood clot that had become detached. Medical experts believed this complication was directly linked to the injuries sustained in the shooting. Following Stephen's death, Tracy's charges were upgraded to murder, making her legal situation far more dire. Meanwhile, Celeste continued to indulge in her extravagant lifestyle, freely spending her late husband's fortune. Just 6 months after Stephen's passing, she remarried, an action that raised even more suspicion. Initially, Tracy refused to implicate Celeste in the crime. However, upon learning about Celeste's swift remarriage, she felt deeply betrayed. Enraged, Tracy came forward, accusing Celeste of orchestrating Stephen's murder. In exchange for a reduced sentence, she agreed to a plea bargain with prosecutors and testified against Celeste in court. The trial began in 2002, and Tracy's testimony was pivotal. The prosecution presented overwhelming evidence, including an audio recording in which Celeste was heard offering money for Stephen's murder. Additionally, Celeste's own daughters testified against her, revealing that their mother had not only sought a hitman, but had also attempted to silence Tracy before she could testify. In the end, the court found Celeste guilty of first-degree murder. She was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 40 years. Tracy was also convicted, but received a lighter sentence, 10 years in prison followed by 12 years of probation. She was released in 2011 and later expressed deep remorse for her actions, stating that she regretted the crime every day. During a 2004 interview, Celeste maintained her innocence. She remains incarcerated and will be eligible for parole in 2042, at the age of 79. The Stephen Beard case is more than just a crime story. It is a chilling reflection on the dangers of greed, manipulation, and betrayal. From a wealthy millionaire to the victim of a calculated murder plot, Stephen's tragic fate highlights how blind love, unchecked ambition, and deception can lead to devastating consequences. Though justice was ultimately served, the emotional scars left on Stephen's family and those involved serve as a haunting reminder that dark secrets rarely remain hidden forever, and that every decision has the power to change lives forever. The murder of Stephen Beard had profound and lasting effects on his family, particularly his children. The trial of Celeste Beard, Stephen's wife, revealed deep familial conflicts and led to significant changes within the family dynamics. During the trial, Celeste's twin daughters, Christina and Jennifer, testified against their mother, providing critical evidence that contributed to her conviction. Their testimony highlighted the strained relationship they had with Celeste and underscored the emotional turmoil they experienced. This public familial rift not only exposed private family matters, but also indicated a permanent estrangement between Celeste and her daughters. Celeste herself acknowledged the breakdown of her family, stating, "Obviously, I was a horrible mother. I mean, I have to admit that, because my kids wouldn't be like they are today if I wasn't a bad mother. But I did the best I knew how." The trial and subsequent conviction of Celeste Beard also brought to light the complexities of familial relationships and the devastating impact that such a crime can have on a family. The public nature of the trial and the involvement of family members as key witnesses added to the emotional distress experienced by Stephen Beard's children and other relatives. In summary, the murder of Stephen Beard not only resulted in the loss of a family patriarch, but also led to deep divisions and lasting trauma within his family. The events surrounding the case serve as a stark reminder of how criminal actions can irreparably alter family relationships and dynamics.